My brother disappeared in the mountains for 3 days. When search and rescue finally found him, everyone celebrated. Everyone except me. Because the man who came home wasn't my brother. And I didn't realize it until I found the real one. My name is Ethan. I grew up in a small town in northern Colorado, surrounded by forests and hiking trails. My older brother Jake knew those mountains better than anyone. He had been hiking them since he was a teenager. If someone got lost out there, Jake was usually the one helping rescue them. That's why nobody believed he could disappear. But he did. It happened in early October. The weather was perfect. Clear skies, cool air. Jake packed his backpack, grabbed his camera, told Mom he'd be home before sunset. That was the last time we ever saw the real Jake. Around 7 that evening, his phone stopped responding. By midnight, the sheriff's department launched a search. Volunteers, drones, tracking dogs, helicopters. For 3 days they searched every trail, every cliff, every river. Nothing, not a single footprint, not even his backpack. Then the sheriff told us something no family ever wants to hear. If he's out there, the chances aren't good. Mom cried all night. Dad stopped talking altogether. I refused to believe Jake was gone then. On the morning of the 4th day, he walked out of the woods. Alone, no injuries, no cuts, no dehydration. Nothing, he looked. Perfect. Too perfect. Everyone rushed to hug him. He hugged them back, smiled, answered questions. But something felt off. Jake always talked. Constantly about everything. Now he barely spoke. The sheriff asked where he'd been. Jake stared into the trees for several seconds, then answered, "I got lost." That was it. No explanation, no panic, no confusion. Just, "I got lost." At first, we blamed the trauma. People react differently after surviving something like that. But over the next few days, little things started changing. Jake was left-handed. Now he reached for everything with his right hand. He hated coffee. Suddenly he drank 3 cups every morning. His favorite meal had always been steak. Now, the smell of meat made him sick. Mom thought it was stress. Dad said surviving the wilderness changes people. Maybe, but it doesn't erase childhood memories. One evening I asked him about the tree house we built as kids. We spent an entire summer there. He smiled politely. Then asked, "What tree house?" That's when my stomach dropped. He helped build it. How could he forget? Things got worse. Every night at exactly 2:18 a.m., Jake left the house. I only noticed because my bedroom window faced the driveway. He'd walk into the woods behind our property, always alone, always barefoot. Then he'd return before sunrise, his clothes covered in mud. When I asked where he'd been, he'd only smile. I couldn't sleep. It wasn't his smile that scared me. It was his eyes. They looked empty, like someone pretending to be human. One night, I decided to follow him. Keeping my flashlight off, I stayed about 50 yards behind. He never looked back. He walked deeper into the forest than I'd ever been. Eventually, he stopped in a small clearing. Then he began whispering. Not English, not any language I'd ever heard. It sounded ancient, like multiple voices speaking at once. Then something answered. From deeper in the woods, a low, inhuman sound. Not an animal, not a person, something else. Every instinct told me to run, but I stayed. Then Jake slowly turned his head. He shouldn't have been able to see me. It was pitch black, yet he looked directly into my eyes and smiled. I ran. The next morning I told Dad everything. He thought I was imagining it. Until the sheriff showed up. A hunter had discovered human remains nearly 2 miles from where Jake was found. The body was badly decomposed, the face almost impossible to recognize, but the backpack was unmistakable. It belonged to Jake. Everyone assumed it was impossible. How could Jake be standing in our kitchen if Jake's body had just been found? DNA testing took 5 days. The longest 5 days of my life. Jake never asked about the investigation. He never seemed worried. He just watched us. Quietly, like he already knew the answer, the DNA results finally came back. The body in the woods was Jake. The sheriff thought there had been a mistake. The lab tested it again. Same result. The dead man was my brother, which meant the person living in our house was someone else. Police rushed to arrest him. But when they entered the house, he was gone. The back door stood open. Bare footprints led into the forest. Then they suddenly stopped, as if whoever made them had simply disappeared. Weeks passed. Life slowly returned to normal. At least, that's what everyone wanted to believe. Then I received a package. No return address. Inside was Jake's camera, the one he had taken hiking. Police had never found it. The memory card contained only one video. It began with Jake laughing as he walked along the trail. Then he stopped. The camera pointed toward the trees. Someone was standing between them. A man wearing Jake's clothes. The man smiled, then stepped behind a tree. Jake followed him. The recording became shaky. His breathing grew heavier. Then I heard Jake whisper, "How did you get my backpack?" A second later, the man stepped out again. This time he had Jake's face. Exactly every detail, every scar, every expression. Jake screamed. The camera fell. The last thing it recorded was the sound of bones cracking. Then, silence. I gave the footage to the sheriff. He watched it 3 times, then quietly handed the camera back. There was no second person in this recording. I stared at him. "What are you talking about?" He looked genuinely confused. The entire video only shows Jake. After that, he refused to say another word. That night, I played the video again. The second man was gone. It really was just Jake, walking alone, talking to someone who wasn't there. Until the final seconds, just before the camera hit the ground, there was a reflection in a puddle. Not of Jake, not of anyone human. Something impossibly tall, standing directly behind him. Smiling, last week I woke up to muddy footprints. They led from my bedroom to the woods behind my house. Only one set. They went out. None came back, but every night, at exactly 2:18 a.m., someone knocks 3 times on my bedroom window. Slowly, patiently, exactly the way Jake used to.